Revenge films.
My name is Maria. I live with my husband as I work part-time. It's still been 2 years since we got married, and we don't have kids yet, so we adored Sean, my brother's 1-year-old son. My brother's family lived just a 10-minute drive away, so it was easy to keep in touch. His wife would take advantage of that and made us babysit their child often, and honestly, it was sometimes hard for us. But thinking it was all for my adorable nephew, I couldn't say no. My sister-in-law would say that there was no one else she could ask, and she sometimes just left him with us forcefully to go out. My parents also lived nearby, but I thought it was hard for them to rely on them, so I tried not to bother my mother unless we were really in need. But once I found out about the surprising truth, my thoughts changed. One day, when I was relaxing at my parents' house with my mom, she received a call from my sister-in-law. She called to ask if my mother can take care of her baby for a while. I had to babysit him the day before, so I was surprised and asked my mom, "Does she ask you all the time?" Then my mom said in a troubled expression, "Yes, actually." When I told her that I often babysit him too, she was surprised. And then we calculated the days that she asked us to look after their baby. We found out that she had been going out for more than half of the week, making us babysit her child. When we told my brother about it, he looked shocked. I was getting worried about my brother, who looked worried after finding out the truth about his wife he didn't know about. Unaware of what was going on, my sister-in-law suddenly visited me again the next day. "I have a high school reunion tomorrow. Can you babysit him?" she suddenly said to me. "I have plans tomorrow." I refused. Our wedding anniversary was coming up, and we had reserved a nice restaurant, so I couldn't accept her request reluctantly like I always did, no matter how many times I said no. "I rarely have reunions with them, please." My sister-in-law was not backing down. I knew that my mother had refused, and I was the only one she could ask. She was so annoying. "I said I can't." I forced her to go home, and I went to the restaurant the next day with my husband as planned. We enjoyed an early dinner, and when we were walking around the station with just the two of us, my mom suddenly called. As soon as I answered, "Where are you, leaving such a small baby behind?" My mother yelled at me, and I was so confused. "Mom, what's wrong? Calm down." Then my mother told me what happened. Apparently my nephew was left all alone in front of our house crying all day long. My mom thought that I left my 1-year-old nephew behind and gave me a call. When I told her that I said to my sister-in-law that I couldn't babysit him today, my mom got really mad at her. She said she doesn't answer her calls no matter how many times she called her. My neighbors found my nephew, and it turns out he was taken to the hospital for dehydration, and my mom rushed to the hospital to stay with him. We couldn't reach her, so we contacted my brother, who was still working, and explained what was going on. He was so worried that he left work early and came rushing to the hospital. My husband and I were also worried, and we headed to the hospital. My nephew was sleeping, tired from crying all day, but luckily he was safe. After my brother got to know that his wife left him all alone in front of our house, he was so furious and kept on calling her. Then she finally answered the phone. "Stop calling me! I'm having my reunion party right now!" She hung up, and she no longer answered any of his calls. That moment, my brother said to my mom,
"I'm going out for a bit. Keep an eye on Sean for me."
Then he left the room. When I followed him and asked where he was going, he said he's going to ask his wife's classmates to visit her directly at the reunion. My husband and I decided to go with him, worried about my brother, who was being a hothead right now. When we arrived at the venue, there were many people dressed in fancy outfits, and everyone looked drunk. We couldn't find his wife amongst the crowd, and when we asked where she was, they went silent, looking awkward for some reason after realizing that my brother was her husband.
"My son is in danger. Please tell me where she is."
When my brother said that energetically, one of his classmates, who sensed that something urgent was going on, told us that she was at a nearby karaoke shop. When we arrived and were peeking in room after room, my brother froze to the spot with shock after peeking into one of them. When my husband and I also peeked inside, we found her being intimate with a man, clothes all over the place. When my brother barged in, "Why are you here? No, you're misunderstanding." She started to fix her clothes. My brother, who was furious, made them sit formally and questioned them right there. But both of them were silent and refused to say anything. My brother began,
"If you're not going to tell me anything, I'll hire a detective and make you pay compensation money."
Then the guy was the one who spoke first. According to the guy, they were classmates from high school, and after running into her half a year ago, they started having an affair. He was also married and had a child, but they went on secret dates when they had no work. I was just tempted a bit. I'm sorry, when she apologized.
Sean was taken to the hospital because of you. You don't deserve to be a mom, leaving your son out in the sun just to see your secret lover. I'll never allow you to meet Sean again. You leave the house right now.
When he yelled, "What do you mean he was taken to the hospital?" She was starting to panic, so when I explained what happened, "Nothing would have happened if you had agreed to babysit him." She was mad at me. My brother was getting tired of her.
Okay, we're getting divorced. I never want to see your face again.
Like that, we left them behind. She followed us and insisted that she join us to go to the hospital too, but my brother refused and we got into the car, leaving her at the karaoke shop. When we got back to the hospital, my nephew had woken up and he was drinking some juice happily, so I was relieved. My brother looked exhausted.
There's something I want to tell you later.
After saying that to my mom, he cuddled his son and cried, saying,
I'm glad you're safe.
After that, now that my sister-in-law was kicked out of the house, she had to move back in with her parents. My brother had already informed them of what had happened to her parents. So she came to apologize to him, joined by her parents. No matter how many times they apologized,
I'm not letting you see my son. I'll divorce you and ask for compensation money.
He kept a firm stance, and his wife went home with her parents crying. My brother asked for compensation money from both his wife and her secret lover, and he ended up getting a great amount of money. With the money, he renovated our parents' house, and he moved out of the mansion he lived in and moved in with my mom. And he decided to take care of his son as a single father. I was also willing to help take care of him, and we decided that we'll support each other and look after him together. My sister-in-law was kicked out by her parents as well, and she asked for help from the guy. But it looks like they agreed not to get a divorce and continue their marriage under the surveillance of his wife, so she could no longer contact him. She had no one to depend on, and it looks like she finally understood the importance of family after ending up all alone and apologized to my brother seriously. My brother said that he could see that she regretted everything now, but he couldn't forgive her, so he pushed her away. Since then, I heard that she's now looking for a job to make a living on her own independently. 2 years later, I gave birth to my first son, and he is very close to my nephew, as if they're real brothers. My nephew might feel upset sometimes because he doesn't have a mother, but he's doing great every day so far with my parents adoring him a lot. My brother was upset for a while after his wife betrayed him, but he was finally getting his positivity back. And he seemed excited to go out with his son on the weekends. It might be hard to be a single father, but seeing him looking happy with his son, it makes me realize that he's experiencing more happiness than struggles. There might be some hardships in the future, but I hope my brother and nephew would be happy forever.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.